Here we go. Juvenile hall parole officers. Got over 41,000 of them across our nation. Quite a lot. Over 50% of them are women, believe it or not. Just under 50 are men. Their motto: vision, mission, goals, success. Believe it or not, we got over 300,000 kids on parole. That's a lot. And over 30,000 locked up. But anyway, let's go over some of the parole officers' ways to get in. You got to have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, do social work, and psychology. It's not too bad. It's a little dangerous sometimes on duty, more with the adults than they are with the juveniles. But the best state is in Nevada to be in. They got the best benefits and wages. They start you out just over 40. The average salary is just over 50, but it's a little lower when you're starting out. The cost of living, it's a real struggle to get going. But a lot of problems are made. We need to start to think about decriminalizing adolescents. Like almost 1 out of every 2 kids that get into trouble, they end up locking up. In other words, they're locking up way too many of our youth. Before, 10 kids got in trouble and they might have locked up 1. Okay. So now they've turned this into a money-making machine is what they did. So they corrupted it and incentivized it with money by hiring extra people in the court systems, by putting on extra officers, by putting on parole. A whole chain of events took place. And this happened where the Congress, the corrupted officials in Washington, have gamed the system to criminalize our youth and start locking more of them up. And they got plans to build more institutions. We got to decriminalize adolescents. We got to stop locking them up. The youngest one to be locked up is 12 years old. He accidentally shot a 6-year-old. He's doing life for it. Tate. You know, it was a terrible thing what he did, but I blame more the parents or whoever provided that weapon that he used. They're the ones that should be in jail for that, because he got that gun for somebody at that young age. But anyway, there's a lot wrong with our youth criminal justice system. It needs a complete overhaul. There's way too many young being locked up, and the bad part about it, theft, misbehaving, curfew, drugs. When they get on drugs, then they get a little bit violent and they're hard to deal with. The parents can't handle them, and then and then they're often there. And then when they get in there, the violence, then they're forced to fight to defend themselves because they got other youths in there. They're a little spun out coming off the drugs. Then the guards are a little bit rough, so then they get a mean demeanor. So now they're mean with one another, and then they try to be who's the toughest on the yard. So then that escalates, and it almost turns them into a criminal. See? So they're criminalizing our youth by actually locking more of them up, and then once they get in there, and then they turn more violent, even after they're off the drugs. They're not locked up, and sometimes there is drugs in the juvenile system. Believe that. You wouldn't think there is, but there's all kinds of drugs in the adult system. You think it'd be less in the youth, but it's not. Could be the correctional officers, some of the youth visiting, parents, whoever's bringing it in, the youth are getting it. That's a big problem, keeping them hopped up on drugs while they're incarcerated. And then the violence escalated, the bullying and the beating up and drugs. So it's just a big mess. We've got to change our laws a little bit. We've got to quit locking up our youth. And we got to quit incentivizing the courts, officers, parole officers, and institutions targeting our youth, because the statistics show once they're in that level of trouble, that follows through them in adulthood. In other words, it never leaves them because of the mental change that takes place in the brain, gives them mental health illness or drug addictions, and that carries with them. So the average person of being locked up while they're young, they got a great deal percentage of being locked up when they're old. So the best way to decriminalize our whole system and reduce mass incarcerations is to get them while they're young and not be locking them up. House arrest. Parole officers come visit them through school. There's diversion programs that we need to spend more money on diversion programs and keeping them out here and teaching them while we got a chance at them. But once they hit them institutions, forget it. Then you got major problems. Time for new leadership. Time to drain the swamp. Time to overhaul our juvenile court systems and decriminalize our adolescents. That is the way forward. Until next time.